Salutations, dear viewers, you're on with the Nexus of the Vast Nexus again, and welcome to another Ark highlight video. This time, the Scorched Earth map, one of the paid DLC maps on Ark, the first paid DLC map to be released, and we are going to the ruins of Nosti, or Nosti, where the artifact of the Destroyer can be located. Now once again, I have chosen an obelisk as my starting point for ease of reference. And from Green Ob here, we are literally just going south into the open desert. Now, as a small aside, I want to point out that my microphone right now is acting kind of weird. It seems to have settled from what it was, but if it's being a little off, I'm working on it. So, a little foreknowledge for this cave. This is one of the larger interior caves. There are no choke points and no narrow passageways, with one exception that we'll get when we get there. My recommended tame mount for running these caves would either be a direwolf or preferably a thylacoleo. They can both be found on the Scorched Earth map, so there's no need to import dinos. Recommended gear would be a mixture of your preferred armor and ghillie. The interior of these caves can be as hot as the desert. It's kind of a theme in Scorched Earth. Now, an otter can help with insulation, but to my knowledge, otters are not found on Scorched Earth, so you'll need to import one in if you're going to use one. Besides which, typically on Scorched Earth, you'll have a jerboa for predicting the inclement weather, because the weather on Scorched Earth can be a lot more dangerous than on the island. Now, the entrance to the ruins of Nosti is not difficult to locate, but it is difficult to identify if you don't know what you're looking for. Now, we can already actually see the entrance in the distance. Those ruins, the larger building on the edge, the one that we're basically heading straight towards, actually contains the cave entrance. So this structure would essentially be impossible to miss. However, if you didn't realize that there was an interior to this structure, because you might notice that there's a lot of ruins lying around, and there's a lot of ruins in the desert just overall, you would completely overlook this as just another ruined structure that probably has no interior, but it does. There's even a large hole that lets me fly my RG right into it for safekeeping. Now, I'm going to be leaving my jerboa out here, mostly because there's a bit of a risky area that we're going to have to traverse on the inside of the cave. And if I'm going to lose anything, I want to minimize my losses. Mind you, this is my standard gear. Now, for additional hyperthermal insulation, you may also want to consider things like, there's a food item for that. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I keep wanting to say Freya curry, but it's not Freya curry. Now, I've also had it recommended to hit this with a fabricated bow with metal arrows, because there are rubble golems in these caves, which are basically half-scale versions of the rock golems, and the armor-piercing property of the metal arrows, which can only really be fired from the compound bow, can bypass their natural armor, or at least reduce its effectiveness. Now, in this cave in parts, if you have a tame Magmasaur, you can use that too. Magmasaurs ignore the armor of rock golems. I discovered that on Ragnarok. Yes, this cave is quite large and quite open. Now, another word of warning in these caves is that I've noticed that resistance on the way in tends to be mild. Yep, there's a little... This one actually looks like it's already been injured. Now, I should point out my Thyla, because of my settings, normally would hit for 2,000, so this gives you a sense of the armor of these things. But, as I was saying, I've noticed that on the way into these caves, you tend to encounter less resistance than on the way out. I'm not sure if that's just because of a spawn peculiarity, or if that's because the designers deliberately made it so that once the artifact has been retrieved, a fresh spawn wave occurs which populates the cave more so on the way out. If that is the case, it's actually quite an ingenious little trap. Now, there are Explorer notes in here, but I haven't taken pains to make sure that I cover all the Explorer note locations in these caves. They're referenced on the wiki. I could put a link in the description, or you could just Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, I don't care. It's not hard to find, is my point. This is basically to give you a visual point of reference of the most straightforward way of tackling these caves. Like, in and out. Oh look, a Megalania. If I didn't have a torch burning, that would basically be invisible. So for this cave in particular, if not a Thyla, I'd recommend a climbing mount. Either a Ferox mutated to its large size, a Deinonychus, Megalania. The new Dinopithecus will also fit the bill. Like I said, my Thyla hits in the thousands, so get a sense for how much that natural armor from the rubble golems is working. Now remember, on official settings, getting something that hits as hard as my mounts is going to be difficult. It's pretty much something you'll have to mutate and breed for. So don't expect the ease with which I am just cutting my way through this cave. So, there's a bit of a fork back there. I'm going to have to deal with this guy. Because for the most part, because of how wide this cave is, you can run a lot of it on foot if you've got enough levels in speed and stamina and you know what you're doing. However, this next bit is where things can get a little dicey because our artifact is in a structure over there. I haven't actually verified that it has respawned, so let's hope it has. But that down there is a bottomless instant death pit. Those who've run the Cave of the Sky Lord will know exactly what that means. And of course, if you fall down there and die, you ain't getting your loot back for all intents and purposes. Now, as you can see, the Thyla can effortlessly negotiate that. I'm just running this guy. The Thyla can pretty effortlessly negotiate that. However, there is actually an alternative route that if you bring a climber, you can completely bypass any and all risk of running into the instant death pit. Which, if you can do that, you should do that. I pointed that out for the Skylord, that there is actually a route through the cave, a bit maze-like though, that will allow you to bypass any of the pits and still reach the artifact, instead of having to do that grapple nonsense further in. I think this rock golem's not... yeah, he's not going to chill. I'm going to make you chill. I'm honestly taking more damage from the recoil damage from the Arthropleurid, because apparently in this game they have acid blood. Oh, okay, that's a bit bright. So here we are, in the chamber. There's the artifact. We also get a sword skin. Boink that. So now, if you continue to follow this path on the way out, you will eventually get to this point. Now the thing is, if you drop down from here, you're right back at the start before you made the jumps, which means if you have a creature that can climb, or you bring a bunch of grappling hooks or some climbing picks, you can just scale the walls and go straight to the artifact without having to make the risky jumps, which can be substantially more risky should you get hit by, say, a stone thrown by the rock golem in the process. So, again, bring a climber, and then you can just climb up through here and not have to concern yourself with making those touchy jumps. Or, if you're trying to run this on foot, just use a grappling hook. Yep, note that the resistance on the way out has increased. I mean, maybe I took the other path compared to the way I went in the first place, but... yep, because that wasn't there before. Yeah, so these caves basically will often spawn stuff in after you've retrieved the artifact to cut you off from an easy escape. So if you find yourself meeting little to no resistance on the way in, don't let that fool you. There will be hell on the way out once you retrieve the artifact. And that's it. I mean, The caves on Scorched Earth are kind of blisteringly easy compared to the island. The rubble golems are the only real thing that you have to worry about. I mean, there, of course, there was a drop, which could be an issue, but aside from that, it's pretty straightforward. There's really nothing to it. So, I'm going to be following this up rather quickly with the other caves here on Scorched Earth, because there's only 3 of them compared to the 10 of the island, not including the Tech Cave. And I've already run all of them. I already know what I'm doing, and in fact, I'm probably going to get in a position to do the next one straight away. This time, we are going for Artifact of the Gatekeeper. So I'm at Red Ob for our starting point here, and it's basically northeast. I will inform you of the name of the cave just as soon as I've refreshed my own memory. Most people in common usage don't actually use the names of the locations in reference to them, they just refer to the artifact. Old Tunnels. The most original title, but I'll take what I can get. So, this particular cave may be difficult to locate if you're trying to find it while from the air. Now, it's important to note that during my ramblings on Scorched Earth, the only cave that I actually found just by wandering was the Destroyer, because I was actually looking for shelter in some of the ruined structures, and basically stumbled upon the cave entrance. So you'll note this sectioned piece of land, which has a underground area. You're going to want to head into that. The friendliest of environments down here. But this is Scorched Earth. There pretty much isn't a spot you can spawn in this map where you're not going to get killed by the wildlife. There's the cave entrance. If I'm not mistaken, and I might be. Get rid of these. I know the way in is... Oh, there it is. I was just looking on the wrong side. So, this cave is fairly wide up until the point where you reach a narrow choke point. Once again, ghillie and so forth is recommended. Now, I neglected in my Ruins of Nosti to show the exact positional coordinates, but like I said, it's in the middle. It's a huge building in the middle of the desert. You should have no trouble whether from the air or the ground to see it. Now here, on the other hand, you may have trouble, as I just did. Here are the coordinates. Now there's an area in this cave that looks like a lethal drop. It actually isn't, provided you have the fortitude or, honestly, just a parachute. This cave is remarkably short, as well. In fact, these cave videos for Scorched Earth are proving to be so short, I might have to roll them all into a super episode, because otherwise each video is only going to be like 10 minutes. But as per usual, there's almost no resistance on the way in. More creatures will spawn on the way out. There's a rare chance for a rock golem. So, yep, there's our crawl space. There's a rare chance for a rock golem to spawn in this cave. Or a rubble golem. Just keep that in mind. Sorry if it's a bit dark, but I'm working with primitive firearms, and I know I can put a flashlight on the long neck or the revolver, but kind of disrupts the sort of Old West look that I sort of have. You're going to want, what is it, Kalen soup, I think, for hyperthermal protection. Again, I'm wearing ghillie of a very good quality, so I'm pretty cool. So we're basically just going to follow Now, it looks like you can come back from this, because can't, not this way, but there's a little jump point down there for you to make that jump back. You don't actually need grapple hooks or anything. These jumps are actually pretty easy. And like I said, that looks like a bottomless pit, but we are actually going to head down there after we get the artifact, and there is actually a bottom, and there's no instant death detection down there. So don't worry about it. This is probably Scorched Earth's easiest cave. Now, I have a sneaky suspicion. Yes, the artifact should be right here. It hasn't respawned yet. So to buy it that time, and buy myself that time, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of this pit and illustrate that, yeah, it is actually a bottomed pit. You're not going to fall to an instant death zone. And here we are. So this locale is totally safe, totally easy. You might die from fall damage if you plummet into it, but a Sonoma Crops or a parachute or even a quick grapple will get you sorted and back to safety. Resistance on this side of the crawl space where you don't have your tames is virtually non-existent. You saw I just popped a Titan Boa. My last time here, there was a few Araneo, a few spiders. I'm going to cut back when the artifact decides to stop being a no-show. And here we are. The artifact has returned. I also get a Scorched Spike Spear skin, artifact of the Gatekeeper. Now, I actually had to run outside because I realized too late that I came in here without food, and a lot of creatures had already spawned, so the spawn itself is not directly connected to your having collected the artifact. It probably relates to your presence in the cave, which does suggest that it's more of a byproduct of how creatures spawn in Scorched Earth than a sort of trigger. There's that jump. And then, like I said, came from there, and we're just gonna land over here. Now, even with resistance at the start of this cave, if you have decent weapons, you can probably handle it without a mount. Like I said, this is probably the easiest of Scorched Earth's caves. One little dangerous spot is here. Might want to sidle along the wall. Yeah, we're back through this crawl space. Another reminder, if you're looking for explorer notes in these caves, or the locations of cave drops, like the one right there, reference the wiki. There will be a link in the description. I think at this point, grappling hook should be standard equipment for any spelunking in this game. I shouldn't even have to suggest that if you know anything about Ark. Just bring a grappling hook and a crossbow to use it. If you have access to the resources, bring zipline anchors and zipline motor attachment. You can use the anchors without even having the attachment, provided you're going down and not up. Of course, that does create the problem that once you've descended, how do you get back to where you were? So, probably better to bring the motor attached to a pair of your pants. Bear in mind the weight of things like glide wings and the zipline motor. If you like to keep your survivor light, that's going to be a problem. So yes, that's the old tunnels. And we are going to be tackling the last of the caves on Scorched Earth. Obtain the artifact of the crag, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the Grave of the Tyrants. So Blue Orb is our reference point now, and we're going to be heading south and ever so slightly west to reach it. The entrance of this cave is in the mountains, and apart from the fact that you have to get sort of under the top plateaus in order to reach the Gatekeeper Artifact, this one is probably the hardest entrance to locate. It looks a lot like all the rocks around it. Same procedure for this one. You're going to want Gilly or some other hyperthermal insulation. An Otter could work, but you're not going to find one in Scorched Earth. Kalin's soup, I think it is what you'll need for staying cool if you have the if you have a developed farming operation, which right now in Scorched Earth I don't. Scorched Earth has gone by fairly quickly. I understand that for a lot of people this is what sort of kept Ark alive, and if it wasn't for Scorched Earth we wouldn't have Aberration, Extinction, or Genesis, but this map, without a proper ascension, and with these caves that are incredibly easy for the most part and incredibly brief, yeah. So, yeah, the entrance is right there. Let me pull out my GPS. About 29.29, I'll get you in the ballpark. Recommended again is a Thyla. I would recommend a Thyla for all of the Scorched Earth caves. It just works. A little choke point here, but the Thyla will thread the needle nicely. Now this cave is a lot more cramped than the other ones, and it actually has large bodies of liquid water. In a PvP setting, with cave building enabled, I'm not sure if that's something that is permitted on official, but in a PvP setting, this cave is just full of water. If you're having difficulty setting up in one of the more open areas in the valley in order to have access to water, regular access to water, this cave is a good choice. Okay, that's gotten a bit weird. Yeah, there we go. So this cave is not particularly maze-like. There's a couple of, like, switchbacks, but for the most part it's a straight shot from one end to the other. I'm quite literally just jumping over huge swathes of it, which is something you can do in a Thyla quite easily. Thing is, in this cave, you can expect to find wolves and saber-teeth, which will not be fooled by insect repellent. You can use insect repellent to avoid... I mean, not the rubble golems, which are probably the biggest threat, but... insect repellent won't do you much good in here, given what you're encountering. So, there's the artifact of the crag. Get a torch skin with that. Yeah, we got the spike skin with Gatekeeper. I know that this game does not place a huge emphasis on realism, but this is not at all how fossils work. It's pretty, though. But it literally looks like it was put there by a designer as a bit of cheeky decoration. My Jerboa is informing me that if I'm interpreting the noises it's making properly, we have either a heat wave coming or rain. But I believe it's heat wave. Yeah, at least if you're using insect repellent, you can avoid aggroing the Onyx or the Araneo, which if you're running it on foot, it's very helpful not to aggro the Araneo, because their ability to web bind you and slow you down is what makes running the cave on foot dangerous. So not drawing their aggro can make that substantially easier. Now, I don't go into huge detail on these tutorials on the grounds that I would anticipate that strategizing how you're going to handle a cave is something that should be logical. I mean, perhaps some people it wouldn't occur to them that if I'm going to run the cave on foot and it has spiders which can slow me down, I should equip insect repellent to avoid getting slowed down by the spiders. Again, one of the issues with following written instructions on how to deal with these caves is that it can be difficult necessarily to picture what you're supposed to do, which is why I put these videos together. So that you have an easy point of reference of, oh, that's there, and this is where I look for the other thing. I'm going to start heading back to base. Benefit of single-player map, I can literally set my base up right in the middle of the map, and I'm not competing for space with players who've been on the map for 2 years or longer. This game is, what, 5, 6 years old? So especially for older maps like this. You're not going to find a server that doesn't have 30 people on it. What really astonishes me is that given that structure decay allows other players to destroy structures that haven't been visited by their tribe for a certain period of time, a lot of tribes are still maintaining their structures. I'm honestly just curious whether I'm interpreting the Jerboa's signal correctly. Oh. Oh, wow. It's actually the rains. Yes, you may not have experienced it if you haven't spent a lot of time on Scorched Earth. It took me tens of hours, probably, before I encountered my first rain on this map, but it does in fact rain on Scorched Earth, which it would have to, otherwise where would the water everywhere come from? But this is sort of a unique experience, because, obviously being a desert map, it does not rain often on Scorched Earth. Now, predicting the more hazardous inclement weather, like sandstorms, heat waves, or electrical storms, is why the shoulder pet for Scorched Earth should probably be a Jerboa. If you're in a tribe, not everybody needs one, but somebody should be having one whenever the tribe goes out together, and if you're going out alone, you should have one. It's part of the reason why I have a set of glide wings equipped, which are not native to this map, neither are the resources necessary to craft them, without taking advantage of the benefits of Structure Plus. But if you are bringing a Sonoma Crops, you're not going to be able to predict the weather, which means that things like sandstorms and heat waves can sneak up on you. Anyways, that has been all of the caves of Scorched Earth. I will be fighting the Manticore. No ascension, sadly. There is no ascension off of Scorched Earth, which is unfortunate. The caves themselves are unfortunate. They're extremely straightforward and easy if you have even a basic set of equipment. Alright, well, here we are. The caves of this map have been so brief that I'm able to do the boss fight in the same video. And it's not even like 50 minutes long. It's longer than I usually post, but it's a good testament of just how brief Scorched Earth can be, or perhaps just the general lack of content in this map. Now, there have been some losses in retrieving this final trio of artifacts, as well as the 20 goddamn wyvern talons that I had to get. I lost my Jerboa, Sandy, and I lost my Thylacoleo, desert cat. Desert cat fell into that bottomless pit that I warned all of you about in... Oh. What is it, Gatekeeper? Yeah, the Lost Tunnels or whatever. Fell into the pit. Was it the Lost Tunnels or was it... No. It was the ruins of whatever. Anyway. It's Alpha Manticore time. I am not armored properly for this, but I'm basically going to stick to my mounts. Now, my last time through here, it's important to note that my Theras are pretty hardy. My Utis are not. But I ride the Utis in order to, you know... get the bonus of the Courage Roar. Now, our real problem here... Our real problem here is that... Ooh, he's quick. We have a very limited window to attack this thing. And as it starts to get low, instead of summoning death worms for minions, it's going to start summoning, oh, what are they called? Rock golems. So if we can DPS it really fast... Oh. If we can DPS it really fast... Oh, 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 if we can DPS it Yeah, it'll take flight again if it starts detecting that it's getting really low. The thing is, it'll torpor these UDs down very fast. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it! Go on, do it! Damn it! Death worms. Oh, I'm using the... Duh! I was using the wrong roar. I was using the fear roar instead of the courage roar. Oh boy. I think some of our Theras have already been knocked out. They all seem active. Why did it sound like something passed out? Land! Ow! Get him! Get him! Oh, god damn it! I brought weapons in case I wanted to shoot at it while I was in the air, but I am not uncoupling from this UD if I can help it. Gonna have to in a minute. It's gonna run out of... Oh, yep, there we go. Kill it! This boss actually has a death animation. Oh, I have been slain. Damn right you are. Or have. Give me your skin. Oh yeah, that's the Manticore. There's not a whole lot to it. Now, I know I didn't come in here with a set of Scorched Earth dinos. I think there are theories on Scorched Earth. I could be wrong. But you could just come in with a bunch of Rexes. I mean, a Thera rush is equivocal to a Rex rush. The only difference is you can have Theras self-heal with veggie cakes. Not that I equipped any, because I don't have a farming operation and I didn't transfer any of that. So... they're just here. Yeah, like I said, Scorched Earth, there's nothing to it in a PvE sense. In a PvP sense, it's probably one of the harder maps, I would think. There's nowhere to hide. Everybody has to cluster around water, which brings all the players together. In a PvP sense, Scorched Earth will probably be rough, but in a PvE sense, Scorched Earth is a bit of a joke. So yeah, that's Scorched Earth. I can't leave the map immediately on account of the fact that I need to get some basic gear together for Aberration, because much like Scorched Earth, starting Aberration fresh with no equipment to speak of is difficult. Yeah, the Theras are handling their torpidity a lot better than the UDs, but I've noticed the Manticore tends to target whatever you're riding. There wasn't even a whole lot of time in that fight for me to elaborate on what in the hell was happening. And Scorched Earth is going to end unceremoniously without even an Ascension cutscene, because there isn't one, because this map was effectively never finished. They moved on to Aberration, which they put a lot more effort into than this, and they moved on to Extinction, which they put even more effort into than Aberration. And so forth and so on. You could at least give them the praise that they were actually improving the amount of effort they put into the maps with the subsequent DLC progressively, but that does leave Scorched Earth in a bit of a lurch, because it is the least developed of the maps available. To some extent, it's less developed than some of the free DLC maps. Granted, none of them will get you an Ascension, but, I mean, Ragnarok is huge, it's got a bunch of stuff, and that's the thing, Scorched Earth has become this appendage in a lot of the other maps. It's a part of Ragnarok, but there's so much to Ragnarok than just that. It's a part of Crystal Isles, but it's the same story as with Ragnarok. There's so much more to the map. Wait. Is he auto-couraging while he's unconscious? That's a bug. I found bug. Anyway, yeah, that's Scorched Earth. I'm gonna head out to Aberration. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you'll return to watch this series when I actually start really cracking into Aberration and the subsequent maps, and check out other things that I've done on the channel. I hope you're all staying happy and healthy out there, and as always, fare thee well. Country road, take me home, take me home. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.